Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Attack of Opportunity. Today, we go head-to-head with the competition. Another network. A rival network? No, a friendly network. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here, submitting to this interview. The Mongers Podcasting Network today is interviewing not one, but two of the movers and shakers from the Patio network. Speaking with me today, we have Adam.
Hey, everybody.
And we have his cohort.
Hey there, this is Matt.
And Matt. I have my own Matt, who couldn't be here. He usually does the intro for this. Matt and Adam. A network, you say. Well, I am going to try very, very, very hard not to constantly interrupt you and tell you my side of these stories, which I tend to do, and I keep getting in trouble for interviewing myself. So let's begin with something personal. The very first question that we like to ask all of our victims here on Attack of Opportunity, let's start with Adam, is... was there a defining moment in your young life where you knew you were a geek, a nerd, one of us?
Yes, I do actually. So, and maybe this is not necessarily the same kind of nerd, but I think we're all nerds at heart, right? I remember being a very young child in probably I want to say first or second grade, and being in gym class and stretching like the Goku anime character from Dragon Ball Z, and thinking this is how you should be your life, always training and being you wanted to get stronger and whatnot, and really just, I guess, resonating with that character. And all my friends knew it, so I was always kind of like the anime nerd as a kid. And then going into bookstores, I would always get caught reading through D&D books, which from my parents' perspective, I wasn't supposed to be reading. So I think during all that time, realizing I was obsessed with fantasy and anime and all that, I think I just really started accepting that nerd culture kind of aspect
right out of the gate.
Yeah, it was pretty early for me. I was obsessed with everything Harry Potter and whatnot.
Are we circa 1970s, 1980s, 1990s?
I was born in 92, so for me, that would have been 98, early 2000s.
Oh, okay. And what about you, Matt? Same question.
I am a kid brother. My older brother, about 4 years older than I am, got his red box when he was about 10. And being the kid brother, I was the guinea pig for all the adventures we were doing. And I was hooked from game one. I just loved it. Then from there, collecting comics. And then when role-playing games on computers, I had a Commodore 64 with, Enchanter and Zork. I mean, I started way, way young.
I remember Zork. My wife used to play that.
Oh, the Commodore 64 with the drive on the side. You put the disc in, comma 8, comma 1, and run. I mean, yeah, I started from a very, very young age.
That's luxury. We had a VIC-20, but cheaper, slower, luxury.
Well, we moved from a Commodore 64 to a 386 PC, which my dad built. He was a communications guy in the Navy, so he had some tech knowledge. So I remember seeing a PC when I was about 12, and he had a weather app. He was a ham guy. So anyway... probably 6 years old, probably not very well, but really, really getting into it when I was about 12. My brother had found a really big group of guys playing, and he let me tag along.
That's awesome.
Yeah, long time ago.
So that kind of answers our next question. How long have you guys been gamers, and how long have you guys been in RPGs? Now, comic books, the gateway drug to RPGs, one of them that we list. What got you each, starting with Adam again, into actually playing Pathfinder? The immersion from D&D into the next game.
Yeah, so for me, I had always read the D&D books in our local used bookstore and whatnot, and I'd always been super interested in them. But growing up, my parents really were kind of against the whole idea of Dungeons and Dragons, like a lot of the parents were in the 90s. So I didn't get to play until I was right at 19 or 20ish after I had moved out. I met two guys named Dave and Phil, and they were running UT's gaming league. And I remember bringing it up to them hey, I would love to play some D&D. And they said, no, you don't want to play D&D. You want to play Pathfinder. So I never even got to play quote unquote D&D 5e, which was out at the time. I started right off with Pathfinder 1.0.
Well, do you know the history of how back when D&D went from 2nd to 3rd edition. It was a monster of rules, 3.5 to try to revise those editions. And before the dreaded 4th edition came out, which ruined everything, in some people's opinion.
That's what I've heard.
3.75, we tongue-in-cheek called Pathfinder. A bunch went off on their own and kept developing. And then when 4th edition tanked, funny how 5th edition has a lot of concepts from Pathfinder that they've tweaked and made their own, and now 5th edition is back on top, as it were. I'm a Forgotten Realms man myself, and I've only been playing Pathfinder for, the last 5 years or so. But, well, hey, you know what? At least you didn't have to slog through... No, that's not true. All happy memories. Every edition is a good edition, because you're role-playing.
Right.
And there's a D20 involved. I mean, even if you play a straight-up 3d6 fight, it's all dice, all game. What about you, Matt?
4th edition D&D ruined it. That's what made me switch over to Pathfinder. I'm religious. I was, basic, 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 3.5. And then they hit 4th edition, and I hated it. I hated everything about it. And I'd heard about Pathfinder, so it was basically the spiritual successor to 3.0, 3.5. Now, saying all that, I love 5th edition. I think it's a fantastic system. I think they've done an amazing job. But I'm a Pathfinder guy, and I'm everything I have is Pathfinder these days, and I'm ready for Pathfinder 2E.
No going back. Yes, 2E. So what was the transition from the home game for you guys to actually decide to become content creators? Before we even touch on the whole network and multiple shows, what was it got you guys, starting with Adam, that got you and going, hey, I want to make content. I want to put my work up there, as it were.
Yeah, so I think Matt and Wes and I and a couple of other friends, we've been gaming together for right at about 2-3 years, I guess. And we kind of started talking about it in the idea of like, hey, we really love the community. There were a couple of actual plays, maybe 1 or 2 out at the time. There weren't a whole lot. I want to say GCP and Critical Role were really the only 2 that I knew.
GCP was probably episode 30 at the time.
They were maybe episode 35, 40 in. Yeah.
Hallelujah! Somebody else I've talked to knows the GCP. I thought it was alone.
No, by God, no.
Yeah, nobody knows GCP.
I'm a huge Canaanite. Yes. I love GCP. It's the only other podcast I really listen to. Now, I listen to other podcasts scoping out potential victims for this show, and certain people have really piqued my interest, and I follow their careers. But as far as like Jeff's personal time in the car, going to A to B, who inspires me, who do I prefer to listen to because I'm sick of my own voice, it has got to be the Glass Cannon podcast.
Yeah, they do incredible work. I'm a huge fan. I know Matt's a huge fan.
Yeah, those guys are professional. I mean, they're actors and comedians, and one's a playwright in Juilliard. I mean, for God's sakes, these guys are professional thespians.
Right, and I think
I see. I don't see that. I see 5 guys in New York that got together and picked skills set going, well, I bring this to the table on my tech stuff, Grant Berger. Well, I've done commercials and I've done some, acting. That's Troy LaValle. And Skid is a movie enthusiast like myself, my age, and is like seen every movie and has all these obscure references and stuff. And it's just a really fun guy, voice actor role play. Then you have a playwright, yeah, that's right. you have a playwright, Matthew, right? And then they bring the girls to the table and goes on. And Joe is like the buddy that's like loves. He's so enthusiastic. I love Joe O'Brien.
I really resonate
about
with Joe.
About everything. I think Joe's the guy that really makes it happen. Like unless you have a guy that going, yeah, we should do this, buddy. You know what I mean? You know the old saying like there's. A good friend is the guy that bails you out of jail.
Yes.
But a really good friend is the guy sitting next to you in jail going, man, we fucked.
That's exactly right. Joe totally sounds like that kind of guy to me.
Yeah. No, I do admire the entire crew. And they came out of the gate with heavy, good quality audio.
Exactly.
Smart move. And they have chemistry.
Yeah.
It's all about chemistry. So getting back to, I have to shift the conversation back to you guys. You get me going on those guys. Shifting back to you guys sound like you have built-in chemistry. Matt, are you backing up Adam's claim like you were playing together for 3 years and then somebody sets a spark, it's a proverbial coffee, getting back to my own story again, a couple guys around the coffee table kind of going, we could do something with this. We could do more,
I've known Wes, the GM, from our previous podcast, which was...
the Called Shot podcast.
But leading up to that, I've known Wes for longer.
Whoa, hang on. Whoa, I'm sorry. You guys are Called Shot?
Yeah, we're Called Shot.
We're the OG members.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Called Shot, I read on Reddit, there was a list. Do you think the GCP sparked a whole bunch of, Pathfinder stuff? And we're on that list. Mongers doing the all Cavalier challenge put down by Troy LaValle, Joe O'Brien in 87.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. We've heard all about you guys.
I remember them talking about that. Yep.
Yeah. And I went nuts when I heard that episode 87. I'm like, say the name, say our name, Troy. Come on, man. I was the guy that tweeted him that morning. I put his name in the tweet, going, we're going to do this. Ha ha. And I put, at Troy LaValle. And he happened to see it, and he happened to sit down and record that very day. And he happened to say, oh, yeah, by the way. So, and that, just a glancing thing. I'm like, come on, man, say the name. And he didn't. And it's like, well, luckily people have started searching for it. But until we got up online, people were like, where is it? Where is it? Oh, it's Dice Before Dishonor. This and this and this. And it's like, what are they doing? They're not even playing Crownfall.
Right.
And we got 22 episodes up. Season 0 is a prologue. It's like, it's a prologue, people. We are trying to prove the Party Cavaliers can work before we just throw it in there on a dare, We have so much more coming, even spawned a side series, Echoes of Honor, and on that goes. And then we get to 89, where he's interviewing Crystal Fraser, the actual lady that was the design team lead.
Right.
And she is working with No Direction and doing Crownfall and that series on their own. And I was like, oh, crap. How do you go up against the design lead? Like, oh, no. So we're trying to do something different. They're going like a video process on Roll20, quite raw, and they're playing straight through, almost like a Twitch channel kind of thing, where we're actually trying to record, take it down, polish it, add effects, put it up later, edit the crap out of it as something really theater of the mind. You guys, let's start with the called shot. You guys were on that list.
We were doing the Skull and Shackles AP.
Skull and Shackles, yep. Pirates.
Okay, so you are the one. That's what I thought. You guys are the one that folded, because it said, Skull and Shackles, blah blah blah, and it folded. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, we got
terrible. Let's competition.
We got our 52 episodes in. So,
geez, I got to ask, man. Like, could you tell us a little bit about that? Like, I don't want to get into anything personal, because the guy hinted that for personal reasons you guys tanked it.
We had a lot of.
Could you tell the world? Maybe a PG version of, And
I mean, completely honest, we had a lot of guys. All of us had all these different ideas and projects we wanted to do, and so we kind of split apart. And the other two guys that aren't a part of Back Patio have joined some other people, and they're doing their own podcasts now. It wasn't anything. It was pretty amicable. We just needed to split up to do different projects.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I think we all just kind of had these different ideas of what we wanted to work on, and just didn't have enough time to do a lot of it, unfortunately. So we kind of ended up just branching off into different paths.
But you guys were like, was Called Shot the only thing you guys were in?
Yeah,
at the time.
At the time, Called Shot. We did get to work with Cosmic Crit a little bit. We did a couple of crossover stuff with them, with great people over at Cosmic Crit. Love those guys.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I know them.
But yeah, it was just 6 of us.
No, I didn't mean to sort of air dirty laundry. I think it's great that you guys are still in touch or whatever. May I ask where your fellow potters went to? What show they went to?
Yeah, so Davery and Chad are working on a show called The Fortunes Untold, and it's really awesome. They're doing individual rule sets. So they're kind of not interviewing, I apologize.
Playtesting.
They're playtesting the different rule sets. I think that right now they just released, well, of course, Cthulhu. When you all hear this, it will have been a month past, but they did some Cthulhu stuff, and it was really neat. Great job. They're actually working with another good friend of ours named Andrew. Really great guys.
And Andrew was a co-worker to Valley, who was on Called Shot podcast. So that's how we kind of all knew who Andrew... And Andrew actually gamed with us.
Yeah, he gamed with us a couple times.
Yeah, how we met in the first place.
So it's a small world around here.
Yeah.
You got good reviews. Skulls and Shackles was one that we were seriously considering, but because of the way the pirate movies went with Johnny Depp, where they were strong, and then all of a sudden they just
tanked.
Yeah, it just kind of went south. It's like there's not a lot of interest in this right now, And then I was like, hey guys, let's do Starfighter. We'll do Skulls and Shackles in space. It's like, no, they're not going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, it was interesting because, whenever we were done, Wes and I had a project that we were going to be working on with a comic book podcast, and Matt was kind of tossing around 2.0. I mean, it had just dropped like a few weeks later, and, we were like, oh, well, let's all work on this. And the idea kind of came out like, well, what if we just did a network? We could just put it all under one name. I mean, if we're all going to be working on it, we might as well.
Yes.
And so
not all gaming.
It's not all gaming. I've got, Wes and I are working on a comic book podcast. We've got a couple of actual plays that we're working on. Rocks and Rune Lords will be dropping in January, first half of the January month. And I've got a cigar podcast I want to work on. And so we've just got like a lot of stuff. It's just a matter of finding time,
So Comic Book Cabinet, I'm just looking at your website right now. Comic Book Cabinet is the podcast with Adam and your buddy
Wes.
Wes, and you talk about comic books.
Yes. So the idea is I've been collecting and reading comics since I was like 4 or 5 years old. Wes had never really read comics in general. Like he had seen some of the movies here or there, read a few comics as a kid, but he was really interested in the whole ideology that I'm so attached to some of these characters. And I guess he kind of just wanted to get caught up. Like, well, why do you love these characters so much? So every episode we are taking one character that he's interested in, and I am basically doing a full read through from their first appearance until their current runs and catching him up with everything. So it's going to be us sitting down and talking about those characters.
Kind of Ask the Guru sort of thing.
It's been a lot of fun. We are reading so many comics. It's insane how many comics we're reading per episode.
You just burn through them.
When we first started it, we did not expect to, it's kind of funny because we make the joke, actual plays really write themselves. You sit down and you play the game that you play almost every weekend, and there's a lot of prep work for the GM, but for the players, it's just a lot of us showing up and playing.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas with Comic Book Cabinet, it's 40 hours of reading comics and then 4 hours of sitting down and talking through the timelines and doing research and figuring out what's really important to each character. So it's been a huge thing to tackle. It's a lot harder than we thought it was going to be.
No, it sounds good. And you've got it up there on the network, I can see. And before you get into what's in the future, which is Rocks and Rune Lords, which is our close competition, maybe, possibly. Well, you know what? If you don't have the episodes up, I can't officially acknowledge you.
No, you guys are friends. No such thing as competition.
Presence yet. The New Path podcast is what drew me to you, because in the Attack of Opportunity series, which is behind the scenes look at us, but like yourself, content creators, friends of the podcast, content creators that we're interested in following, such as yourself, you guys are tackling 2nd edition Pathfinder. There's a lot of mixed feelings because not only are they currently constantly altering those rules as people phone it in and, hey, yes, we like this, we don't like that. What made you guys decide, besides the obvious marketing value of 2nd edition, to sort of throw into that arena?
We wanted an actual play, and 2nd edition came out and we were all just completely excited about it. The Doomsday Dawn came out, and we decided to bring in a couple other people to join us. And like you said, it's very marketable. It's 2nd edition, but it was also, we wanted some content to put with the Back Patio Network, and it seemed like a good long amount of content. So, there's, 7 adventures, and each one's taking us about 3 sessions apiece at an hour. So it was a lot of time that we could use to spend on that. And we also wanted to have a new player that really new to 1st edition as well as 2nd edition, which was Hannah, Adam's wife, has come in, and we wanted to have kind of a teaching thing with it as well. So we're all learning it, and we're teaching it to Hannah at the same time, which was not because of her, but it's a real challenge because as a DM, I don't know the system at all, and it was completely flummoxed at some points, just trying to remember, how do we die? How do we live? How do we?
Have you ever tried using rules lawyers?
But basically, yeah,
if you trust a player enough not to like bend the rules, you're like, can you remind me how this goes? And
well, we're getting some pretty good feedback though. We do get people email us and send us messages on. We have a huge Discord channel where we have quite a few people that are there daily, who comment on the episodes and give us some feedback. We're on Twitter all over the place, and we get Twitter messages. I mean, we get lots of feedback telling us exactly how awful we made a mistake sometimes. But
no bad press. I mean, like, they're interacting with you.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm just saying that they're showing us where we've made a mistake with the rule. But the funny thing about 2nd edition is that rule may not be valid in 2 weeks. So it's just kind of interesting. It's a bit of a challenge to play a brand new system during the beta and try to present the rules as written in the most recent update.
I'm going to let you in a little insider secret that I discovered quite by accident. It just happened to be one of the original adventures that I ran while I was learning Pathfinder. Did you know that there are 2 adventures missing from Doomsday Dawn?
Really? I hadn't heard that.
Yes.
So there were originally 9?
Oh, no. Well, here's the thing. Back when Pathfinder didn't have a core rulebook and they were putting out product for their world, but it was for 3.5 rules, they wrote 2 adventures. And in those adventures, if you're reading through Doomsday Dawn, so Matt will know what I'm talking about, they talk about... now, I'm going to try and say this without spoiling anything for everyone. There's a bad guy, Matt, yes?
Yes.
Okay. The, human bad guy.
Yes.
Okay. Built a little cubby, shall we say, in an extra-dimensional space.
Uh-huh.
Okay. There are 2 adventures dealing with that, specifically. And there's a paragraph dealing with that in Doomsday Dawn, like a single paragraph going, oh, by the way, some adventures uncovered said cubby and did some stuff.
Yes.
And here you are. And I'm like, wait a minute. I know exactly what he's talking about, and I cross-reference, and it's like, oh, okay, so they decided not to go back and visit the past and have Doomsday Dawn highlight for a couple of reasons. They're great adventures; they stand on their own and everything, but the levels would overlap, and I think they just wanted to push forward because that content is so old. And if we were to do second edition, this is what we would actually do: is we would either do homebrew, or we would say, hey, everybody, we have the missing episodes, and we'd put them up eventually. So if you're smart enough to figure out what I'm talking about, which I've probably revealed too many, Adam's probably Googling like mad right now.
He's on his phone. I don't know what he's doing. Yeah.
It's like, where is this? Where is it?
Well, the new path, actually, when we finish the Doomsday Dawn, Adam, I think you've probably heard, he's doing the PFS for second edition. So when the new path comes to an end as far as Doomsday Dawn and my running my part, Adam's going to continue on. We're going to continue to do Pathfinder Society characters for second edition with the new path.
Oh, that's great.
So that we'll have Rocks and Runelords and the new path both going simultaneously.
Yep.
It won't be an every other week or a regularly scheduled. We may try to get something scheduled. We're not exactly sure. But Adam did such an amazing job on his debut DMing with that Pathfinder that if you've not listened to it, you have to. It's freaking fantastic.
I appreciate that, Matt.
Yeah, it was great. It was
I wouldn't be talking to you if you guys suck. No.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
No. I actually haven't necessarily gone after a big fish or whatever. You go after a big name, they won't give you the time of day or whatever. I'm on a journey, and we're looking and showing things behind the scenes of our network, but it's like, along the way, we started networking and making friends and reaching out to other people and stopped treating them like competition and started treating them like your neighbor, going, oh, hey, what do you think about this? Or we're doing this type of thing. And a lot of people are very standoffish and they're just like, go away, or they think you're spamming them. But a couple polite gentlemen like yourself go, oh, yeah,
it's a
this
community.
is great. Cross promotion. Sure, why not? Yeah, we'll be on your show and we'll talk about what we're doing. I mean, there's no downside for you to talk about your process and what you're doing. It's exposure for you. And there's no downside to like if we shut you out going, oh crap, they're doing Rocks to Runelords, and we have a current Runelord show called Clinton's Core Classics. We're running the Rise of the Runelords Anniversary Edition. I'm a player in this actually, and I'm only in the first season, the first 20 episodes, and it's gone into its second season. Pretty much we're kind of going 2 seasons a book. So there should be, X amount of books, that amount of seasons or whatever. And every time the season changes, something interesting happens, like a player changes, or there's a major death, or, that's what I'm trying to set it up. And it's around the 20 episode mark. We're actually coming to the end of season 2 because they're coming to the end of book 1. And we got some more surprises for you. But actually, by the time you hear this podcast, you may see our first female cast member, Sabrina, joining the cast. And they're going to up their party till 5. And you guys have... Tell me now that I'm comfortable, that I've, self-promoted, please tell me all about your Rise of the Runelords. What do you guys got coming up?
Well, the beautiful thing, Jeff, is that, at least in my opinion, the coolest thing about RPGs and tabletop sessions like that in general is that no matter how many times you play an adventure path, it will never play the same way. So you guys could run Rise, we're going to run Rise, and there will be probably 10 other people that do it, and everyone that listens is going to have a completely unique experience. And I think that's great. It's like what you're talking about. I don't see you all as competition or anything like that. We're just trying to build a fun podcasting community. The tabletop world is an amazing place to be, and if you're not in it, we want you to be. So there's no sense in, like you're saying, trying to ignore you guys. I mean, we're all friends here. We're all trying to make friends. That's the beautiful thing about podcasting.
Yeah.
It's a funny story about us releasing the fact that we were doing Rise of the Runelords. We put a tweet out saying, hey, we were working on this new podcast. We don't want to tell you what it is just yet, but the anniversary edition of Rise of the Runelords was sitting next to Wes when we took that picture and put it on Twitter. And within, an hour?
Within like an hour, somebody had called it out and said, oh, well, it's got to be Rise. The book's sitting right there.
we're all sitting there messaging each other. How in the hell did he see that book? Because it's blurry. I mean, you can tell what it is once you know what it is, but...
I don't know. I still don't know how he... because you had to keep in mind, this picture is like across the room. This book is tiny on the other side of the room in a picture. I have no idea how they figured out what we were doing, but congrats.
Within
it was
an
so
hour,
cool.
Absolutely. One of the Twitter followers.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I'd love to see that kind of response on our side. Now, going back to the second edition stuff, the New Path podcast. I've reached out to a gentleman, Jonathan, who runs and DMs the Find the Path.
Yes, Find the Path is awesome.
Yeah.
He's doing Mummy's Mask. And I reached out to him for the same reason I reached out to you. Mongers actual play podcasts singular, as it were, a little while ago. We built it to run Mummy's Mask, and we never did.
Oh, wow.
And there's a big story behind that, which I've already talked about through these episodes and in my story, so I won't bore you with it. But enough to say, we got to a point where, like, we're going to put this down, and when we come back, we're going to do something very, very, very different. And I reached out to Jonathan and went, oh, it's so great you're doing this. And it's like, wow, you even have a cat person. And we were going to have a cat person. And, what I would like to interview you and this type of thing. We're talking back and forth. And I said, I hope you don't see me as competition. And he said, I truly believe that the rising tide lifts all ships.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's nice.
And that struck me profoundly, because I had been reaching out to a lot of content creators, and their thing was, if you didn't know so-and-so,
oh my gosh,
I wouldn't be talking to you. Or if you hadn't spoke to so-and-so and they vouched for you, I'm a bit of a pill. I'm very aggressive the way I go after, and my social media skills are terrible. Everyone sees me as spam or like, so my daughter is our social media assistant director, which means, she kind of reins it in. We have Connor Besh, our technical advisor, constantly reining me in, not just on grammar, but just like, you can't say that on the net here at this, but, okay, oops, delete, okay, thank you, type of thing. I'm just so excited to be here and so excited to reach out this kind of thing. It's like, ooh, what are you doing for Mummy's Mask? And he opened up about his process. And you guys are talking about second edition and the fact that you were in Called Shot, which has 52 episodes, still worth a listen. Your origin story, why not? We had pilot stuff for both Rise of the Rune Lords and Mummy's Mask, and I never aired it except on YouTube, and it did well, but I only had the pilot, and the cast completely changed, and the characters completely changed, and the audio was crap for two of the players, and it's like I just buried it. We'll get back to it one fine day. Sorry, I am telling you this to get around to an actual question for you. Rune Lords is a classic. So the name Clinton's Core Classics just rolled off the tongue. I had to sell it to Clinton himself. He's not so big that he'd be like, I'd like my podcast named after me. No, he's a great guy. And I was like, I'm going to give you a podcast. You know this one so well, and you're going to give Connor Besh a chance to play because he's not available Friday night when I do with the other guys. And he brought in somebody, and we all got in, and he got going, and he got comfortable, and it just has a life of its own now. And like you said, it's a different version. You could listen to everything. You could even listen to the audiobooks. They have these official audiobooks for Rise of the Rune Lords, put out by Patio.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
And they have official audiobooks for Mummy's Mask too. But it's very theater of the mind. It's like sound effects and like, whoa, we're here on the horses. Yes, dwarf. Yes, Bob. I'm peeking around a corner. It's not gameplay. It's in the moment kind of thought. Very different. And I saw that stuff, and I was like, well, geez, why hasn't anybody done this? To my knowledge, no one had. So solid choice.
Thank you.
And I wish you guys all the best. And I will even mention, you guys, I'll even tease our guys, in Clint's Car Classics going, back patio's coming. The South is coming.
The South.
North. For you, So,
dirty Americans.
Clinton is, I'm Canadian. I'm way north. Sure. But Clinton's in Oregon and Connor's in Chicago, though he actually is a Texan, and Reedon's halfway in between. And no, I'm just having fun with that from the outside perspective. So you guys are together now. You're putting up this network. You've got Rocks and Rune Lords, Rise and Rune Lords Anniversary Edition, the same one as we're doing in the future. And when is that going to hit? When's that going to be uploaded?
So that we're actually about to go into our big kind of, I'm going to call it our marketing campaign, I guess. We're going to have a big 12 days of Christmas kind of lead up to it. Starting on December 13th, we have 12 days of information that we're going to be dropping. So by the time that this airs, everybody will probably have already heard that. But the official release date is January 9th, I believe.
Correct.
So,
but my point is the classics never die. You guys are doing Rune Lords. It's a solid sell. And even if you have to go up head to head against us and surpass us, we still wish you all the best, man. It's a great adventure. It is the adventure of all time. I wish I was still playing in it. But unfortunately, work constraints and editing constraints and wife constraints, I just can't sit in to film more than one night a week, because all my other time is work and editing and stuff. Eventually I like to do this for a living. And now they've got such a chemistry, and they've got so much going on without me. I'm like, guys, you don't need me. I will just edit and produce the show, and just let it go.
It took us a long time to decide on which AP we wanted to do. We tossed around ideas for at least a good month to 6 weeks, deciding on, okay, who's doing this? We're obviously not doing Giant Slayer.
Of course
right?
not. You don't ever go against the greats.
Yeah, exactly. Kingmaker, which is an amazing AP, is just not good for radio. It's good for like hexagons and board games.
Agreed.
Some of the other ones,
I know it's a video game.
Yeah, some of the other ones, not to disparage them, they just aren't written very well, so it'd be hard to run. They're not fun to play. So we were just looking around. And at the time, there wasn't anybody that we can think of that was running Rise of the Rune Lords.
Yeah, when we made this decision, I don't think that you all had any of the Rise stuff out just quite yet.
Yeah,
or if you had, it was unbeknownst to us at the time, I believe.
Yeah, we decided about 6 months ago this was the AP we were going to try to do.
We've been running for 10.
10 months?
10 months. Okay, so you guys had just started when we kind of made that decision. Well, and that was sort of the whole idea of doing Rise, I think, is that I know at least 15, 20 people that have played the first book and never gotten past that. And, Paizo's not stopping on finishing that trilogy. The most recent adventure path was the finale of the trilogy, I suppose, for Rise.
Return of the Rune Lords?
Return of the Rune Lords.
Is the 6th book out? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if the 6th book out is just quite yet, but the whole idea was, lots of people want to play these things and they've never played the first book.
Right.
So what if we put on a great show for them? Let's just get through the content and put on an awesome show for them, so that way they can be caught up and they don't have to sit through 3 years worth of play time on their end. They can go right into the new AP. So that was kind of the idea. I mean, I've never finished it. I don't think you've ever finished it either, Matt.
Rise?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's funny. There's a very, very unknown hidden fact. Harkening back to the CSP, the Called Shot podcast days, we did the first section of the first book of Rise of Rune Lords as a practice to get us warmed up to being at the mic, to get us warmed up to be DMing and acting, being responsive and being in the moment of me running the first section of Rise of the Rune Lords.
Right.
And it was not our best moment. And I killed Adam's character. And I mean, it was just... So I know maybe the first 10, 15 pages of the first book of Rise of the Rune Lords. That's it. I'm on Twitter all the time talking about how I'm reading through all these APs. I never did read Skull and Shackles until we finished and I started looking at it. I've never read Rise of the Rune Lords, but what I know of it, it's a fantastic AP. And like you said, it's a classic. It shines among most of them.
Your chemistry and the business sense, how you guys are agreeing with each other, is very apparent to me in this interview. A lot of people don't realize that you could put up stuff, like you said, that one experience, and it could tank. And that does not mean that you need to give up, either go again or try. We went through 3 DMs. 3. Clinton's our 3rd attempt at Clinton's court at Rise of Rune Lords.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. We laugh about our Patreon tiers, and I've mentioned that many times that I'd like to have $1 million tier, which means you pay $1 million a month to listen to us, and you get certain aspects. I wanted to put
sitting in Matt's
those
lap.
3 episodes. Yeah, dude, you give me $1 million, that's fine.
The inside experience. Get to sit on Matt's knee as he DMs.
You own the patio.
Yeah, exactly.
Just saying. Sorry, go ahead.
But that content was going to be behind a really high paywall.
You're not looking forward to playing Santa anytime soon.
No. Yeah. Like I said, we were just joking around about Patreon tiers and levels and things like that and rewards. But I mentioned having those 3 episodes of me running the first of the Rise of Rune Lords as being like $1 million tier. That's all I was saying. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I understand the second adventure AP hasn't done so well. Shadowed Star, I think it is, hasn't done so great.
The what I know about Shattered Star is it's such a dungeon crawl. I've heard it's an amazing dungeon crawl, but it is a pure dungeon crawl. Like 6 books of probably 80% of dungeoning. And this is just based off a review. Mm-hmm. I've not actually read Shattered Star yet, but apparently it's very, very well written. It's not for everybody because of that lower role play, more crawly kind of feel to the game, which some people like because it harkens back. How many times?
No, that's fine. Yeah,
it goes back to basic D&D where people just created dungeons and you jumped in them and you came back to town and you slept and you made another dungeon and jumped into it. So I don't think I'd mind. I think I'd enjoy playing Shattered Star. I like those kind of things. I liked Undermountain for Forgotten Realms and Waterdeep. Delve into Undermountain was an amazing box set.
Yeah, the I can't get my hands on the original. I thought that would have been brilliant to do. just a playthrough, and then I got my hands on the 3.5, where it's kind of a glossary. You can do this with these rooms, and you can do this with those rooms. And somebody went online and started doing like this sort of posting, fill in the rooms, and we'll rebuild the dungeon, kind of bit. But anyway, also like Mummy's Mask. Kudos to the Find Your Path, because we know that right up front, there's like 3 dungeons in a row.
Yeah.
And
and I'll tell you, the GM running that, his name is Rick Sandage. That guy is amazing. Like, he knows the rules, I would almost say, as well as Jason Bowman does.
I was going to say, that man has got to have the mind of a vice trap. Like, listening to him run that game, I've actually sat with the first book of Mummy's Mask, listening to that episode, where they are, and he's reading it. It's like from his mind verbatim what the little boxes are. He's amazing. His attention to detail. Like, I sent him out a message early on. I was just like, guys, I'm amazed by you guys. Please continue. This is back in CSP time, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I just thought they were so good, and he was just so professional. So I don't know how to say it. Like, he's just great. He's just an amazing.
The cast is good. I love his wife's voice acting.
Oh yeah, she's great.
And they've got 3 girls at the table, but they actually have one of the ladies playing a guy, which is rare.
Right.
You know, girls are really hot in gaming right now, and it's like, we have so many ladies. You know what? We'll help the one guy playing the cat dude, and we'll have her play a guy.
And that's another thing I love about their podcast is women. Like, it's nice to see women starting to get into the gaming. I mean, growing up, girls didn't play games like that. So yeah, those guys are great.
Now, careful now, it's a hot topic. There's a lot of people talking about what they call gatekeeping and keeping women out of the game. I was always lucky to have at least 1 or 2 players at the table. We actually have a friend, like a personal friend, Ashley Florence, sit in our Arc Lords 2nd edition, sitting in, and she hadn't played Pathfinder with us in years, and we stuck a 2nd edition pre-gen sorceress in front of her going, go, you know. And she did a great job, but she could only do like the one bit, so she's in the first 5 episodes, and then we wrote her out. And my wife, executive producer, supports me financially. That's why we can put executive producer on the. But besides like redub voicing like a magical sword and a doctor in Star Wars once, she doesn't want to have anything to do with this. She does not want to be in front of a microphone, you know.
See, I guess I've been really fortunate because since I've gamed, I've always had female friends playing with me, except for when it was Dave, Reed, Chad, and Wes and Matt and I. Other than that, once we got Valley into the situation, I've always had a female gamer around. So I've been very blessed and very fortunate in the fact that I've luckily not had to have any of those stigmas around me. You know,
Valley was the first time I was able to play with somebody.
Sorry, going around the room because I only have you guys, and I'd love to have you guys back on again.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Asking these questions, with some of the people we've missed, but tell us about the members of the Back Patio and their jobs and who they are and what they play in, because you've got 3 shows, and we've talked about Adam and his buddy in the comic book one. And so who is who in your mainstay in the New Path?
So the New Path is going to be consisting of myself, Adam, and Matt is the GM. And then we also have my wife, Hannah, and Wes, who is one of the other members of the Back Patio Network, and also Casey. Casey is a really good friend of Wes. We all just met him maybe 6 months ago, and he's turned into one of my closest friends. He's just a great dude.
Fantastic guy.
But yeah, so that is all of the Back Patio Network. Yeah. It's just the 5 of us.
That's right.
So all of our podcasts are just the 5 of us.
That's great.
Yeah.
And now getting into the Rune Lords bit, is there any? You said there was a bit of switching of the chair.
Yeah,
yes,
so it has not officially been announced yet, necessarily, but by the time this comes out, it will have been. Wes is the GM for that one. He is reprising his role as GM. Matt will be a player. So
yes.
Oh, great.
The Rocks and Rune Luge is going to have Hannah, myself, Casey, Matt, and then Wes is the GM.
Well, I made the mistake in Cult Shot I played Fane the Bard, and Fane was kind of he wasn't much of a bard as far as like outward goes. He was kind of morose and quiet and things like that, which does not play well on a podcast. So my character for Rise of the Rune Lords, Safi, he is almost just the opposite. I have had so much fun playing Safi that every other character I ever do in a podcast in the future will be something like that, something just loud and just fun to play. Like, I learned so much. CSP was such a learning experience for all of us. But yeah, this Safi in Rise of the Rune Lords, definitely, you're right. I'm hopefully playing to a strength I have, and I am really enjoying playing him.
That's good. Now let's do a casting call for Rise of Rune Lords, because like I said, by the time this airs,
Right.
it'll be up and everyone will know. Matt, you're playing a bard.
I played a bard
Sorry.
in the previous podcast. This time I am playing a cleric in Rise of the Rune Lords.
Oh, a cleric of whom?
Cleric of Caden Kalian.
Ah, yes. Now, my understanding of Pathfinder lore is this guy was mortal, did this very rare, hard-to-do test, and he's one of the few that ascended, just like
He
Emode.
is an ascended. Yes, he is.
Very
and
cool.
He is the god of revelry and freedom and beer and just it's
That's awesome.
It's a fun character concept.
I don't care what they say. That kind of trope never gets old.
Right?
No,
It never
it doesn't.
gets
It's too
old.
much fun.
It is a
way
lot
too
of
much fun.
I kind of took the easy way out.
No, that's good. And what about you, Adam?
So I am playing a character named Benjen. He is a tiefling unchained monk, and he was actually a resident of Sandpoint. So it's been really cool having a character that grew up in Sandpoint, knows the NPCs. I can interact with them in ways that a lot of the other players don't get to.
You guys are going to have so much mail going, shouldn't a guy with the name Binge in his name be the cleric of... You see where I'm going with this? Like,
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They're gonna call you on typos and all kinds of. I'm just saying, fix it now before the terrible.
Any mail is good mail.
And going down the list, yeah, that's true. Going down the list, who else you got, and what are they playing?
Hannah is going to be playing a hunter named Yinli, and Casey is playing a magus.
Yeah, Magus. Yeah.
Magus named Finland.
Finland.
Okay, sorry, I thought there was more,
That's it,
and
that's
I
the
muted
cast.
up and
That's the
started
cast.
dying
Yeah,
on the
and there's
microphone,
Wes,
giving
who's
these
the GM,
guys
so-
hand signals going, continue on. And I was like, well, there's no more. You just sit there and choke on the mic.
Yep.
We were done.
But yeah, that's the cast. So it'll be Wes the GM, Hannah as Yinli, Casey as Finland, Matt as Safi, and I, Adam, will be Benjen.
Well, some of us.
For now, I'm sure I'll die off pretty soon early
always
on.
Some of us aspiring player actors who are stuck forever in the DM's chair that never get a chance to play. If you ever need a fifth man, you just let me know if you're available at a certain night.
Yeah.
I tell you, I really enjoyed running the Find the New Path. Like, I was a player in the previous one. I'm a player in Rise. It's neat to get into the DM chair every once in a while. But don't get me wrong, I do enjoy playing.
See, I'm the opposite. I would rather play. I'm not a big GM person. I don't like the prep work. I'm lazy. I'd rather just sit down and roll dice and play.
His his Pathfinder society that he ran, he was outstanding. Like, I'm looking forward to him running another Find a New Path Pathfinder Society game.
Are you going to go at it as written, or are you going to expand any given? You know what I'm saying? Like, is the story going to focus on the James Bonds that go through these missions, or are you going to pick an area and just pull a whole bunch of stuff from that one area? Like we're doing. We're running a bunch of, from a specific area. We're pulling a whole bunch of missions from that one area to get people dug in,
Yeah, that's a great question. I know my initial kind of thought about this was we're going to create Pathfinder Society characters so that way when we go to cons and whatnot, we can play with the people that listen to us. We've got a lot of people that I've become really good friends with just talking to them through our Discord. It would be awesome if, they could play with Matt and Wes and Hannah and Casey and let me run a game for them. With Pathfinder Society, that's possible. So, to kind of further expand that, I guess, I really agree with you. It seemed like when I prepped the two Pathfinder Societies that I have prepped, they do skip over a lot of lore. It's a lot of like, you get in and you get out. And I think that's because they're expecting people to run these in that 4-hour scenario system on a Friday night, at the local game shop or something. I do want to do that a little bit differently. I would rather have these characters have full-fledged background stories and kind of take them through the path as if they are going up through the society. So I probably won't pull from specific areas as much as I want to make all of the Pathfinder Society adventure modules kind of tie together, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
I don't know how I'm going to accomplish that yet, but
does.
we're going to figure it out.
It does. Well, we've been talking to Adam and Matt from the Back Patio Network. Where's the time gone? Oh, yeah, because once again, I'm going to get in so much trouble from my executive producer from the other guys, Glennscore Classics, not only for rubbing on them, because I barely let you guys talk. I do apologize. I don't know if I'm going to edit this out or just going to let it fly.
Oh.
Because it's just so much fun, sharing the stories back and forth, your experience, our experience. Oh, this idea, or I'm completely agreeing with Matt on just about everything he said. You can't see me constantly giving thumbs up when he goes off on a point about something. I'm like, yes, this man gets it. He gets me. We're friends now. Sorry, it just happened.
Oh no, this is great. This has been one of the most fun hours we've had probably podcasting in a while. I love
You want
it.
to do karate?
in a while. This episode has really not been about Adam and Matt, so we're going to have them back on the show, hopefully with the lovely ladies and that mysterious West guy,
And Casey.
and talk to you some more.
And Casey.
And Casey. Oh yeah, the guy that shouldn't be mentioned.
Actually, Casey was almost going to be part of
Almost.
this tonight. Something came up last minute, and he couldn't make it.
Yeah, we were really bummed. He had something come up, and Hannah doesn't get off work till 7, so she wasn't able to make it. And actually, you had mentioned the Christmas story? Not the Christmas story, the
Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol. Wes wasn't able to make it because he is working on the Christmas Carol right now. So he's in the middle of a play while we're in the middle of this interview.
Oh.
Yeah, he does set design for a local theater, and he works 80 hours a week during the holiday season. Like
Yeah, it's been insane for him lately.
Yeah, no, we're feeling the crunch. Our store gets very busy, and I'm running out of time. People are posting, "Hey, where's the next thing? Where's the next thing?" I'm like, we're running on banked episodes only at this point. Please forgive us. The new year. But I can tell you this: from Mongers to a friendly network, because you guys have been great and nothing but open and honest and very, very accommodating with our questions and stuff. We wish you guys the best of luck. If there's anything we can do to help and support, and I hope listeners listen to your Rise of the Rune Lords and ours and enjoy both, like a double run through. Or if they prefer one or the other, the rising tide lifts all ships. It's great that we can put out content that might cater to some people, and if they don't like one, they have another option. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, well,
It's a great time to be alive and be
man.
listening to actual plays, isn't it?
It is. This is the golden age right now.
So thank you, gentlemen. I thank you. Mongers thanks you, and we have to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Probably interviewed by somebody else, because I just won't shut up about my
Oh,
own
no, I
experiences.
enjoy listening to you,
Thank you,
Jeff. It's
Jeff.
been so much fun
This has
talking
been a
to you.
conversation. This has been very, very nice. I like this. This has been great.